Welcome, young scientists. Watch the first video on how to make a data table because today we're going to make a graph. Now, one thing that I did is I copied and pasted the title up here so that you can easily refer to the sheet after instead of looking at an untitled sheet. Now, we're going to use the same title to make our graph. So, first step in making a graph is to highlight all of the data we want to graph. Boom, I did that by clicking and dragging. Next, insert. This thing here is called a chart because Google Sheets calls it a chart, but in science we call these things graphs. Alright, I clicked on it and that's what I got. Scrolling up to this chart type here, it's called a column chart. We call this a bar graph in science. But if I click on this, I want to change this to a scatter plot. Boom, a scatter plot takes the x-axis data and y-axis data and makes a dot for every single data point. Now, I have too many dots here. I got trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3 dots. But I don't need to represent each individual trial because all 3 trials are represented in the average for my calculation. So if I scroll down here, I can actually delete or remove trial 1, remove trial 2, and remove trial 3. Beautiful. And now I have the average. That is a great, elegant data set because for every one average for my chord length, I'm going to have one average period. So that's going to be great. Alright, now I have these clicked as default. So I want to show you what I do when I unclick them. So using column B as labels is my chord length. So all my chord lengths are column B. So right here is actually graphing the chord length. I don't need that. I want the chord lengths to already be represented here. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way to 100. That's what that one does, right? If you click on this, it doesn't do anything. But if we had data as in our headings, then it might treat those things as data. Great. Next thing I want to do now is I always on graphs want to have a y-axis label and an x-axis label. It already has the x-axis label here because we have this column B as treated here and it recognizes that on our data and on our data table. So if I customize it here, I can start looking at my chart and my axis titles. Let's start with the chart title because we've already gone over that. So I can click on this data here and copy and paste. Oh. Let's scroll up to make sure that that's what I want. Yes, that is what I want. It looks good, but we want to bold it and center it. Good. The next title is the horizontal axis title. That is the bottom here, and that's the chord length. So we're good on that. The next is the vertical axis title, which is the y-axis title. That's our dependent variable. So here is going to be period. And I always want to include the units in parentheses. So I press that and press enter, and I see it appearing on the graph here. So that is perfect. That's what I want. Let's go over other things that I can show you, which is grid lines and ticks. And depending on what data you have, this may be a useful tool, but I want to just show you that you can add minor grid lines, you can add tick lines. Tick lines are these things. Okay, so I can add major tick lines on my vertical axis, and if I do that on the vertical axis, let's be consistent and let's do major ticks on the horizontal axis as well, or the x-axis. So that is good because now I can see that, this tick represents 40 as a chord length, and then my period is going to be somewhere between 1.0, and that is what I want to do. Now, one thing in science we want to do is recognize trends. So adding a trend line is going to be something that you can refer to in your conclusion and say that there is a direct relationship between chord length and period, or a relationship between your independent and your dependent variables. So clicking on series here will give you the option to add a trend line. Boom, here's a trend line here, and nice. It already recognizes it as something that's linear. You can change the color of the trend line, but to explain what this trend line shows is that there is a linear, or there is an easy relationship between your chord length and your period. So if I were to make an estimate, I didn't click on chord length. I didn't check 65. I only checked 60 and 70 in intervals of 10 for the chord length. But if I were to do 65, I could draw an imaginary line here and find, it would be about there, maybe about 1.5 would be the period. And I can make predictions if I have a trend line. I can extend beyond this and decide, if it's 110, what might that period be? So making predictions outside of the data set is called an extrapolation. So that would be an easy thing to do if I have that trend line and I can show that there is a pattern of the relationship. Now that I'm done with my graph, then I can just close out the chart editor, and there is my chart. If I ever want to go back to the chart editor, you can click on these 3 arrows here and then press edit chart. The chart editor comes back. Okay, now when you're done with your chart, then you can just move the chart by clicking it and dragging it. Keeping in mind how I want to print this out, I'm going to just drag it underneath the data table, so I have the chart and the data table nicely fitting on one page. Let's double check this, and I would like to show you how to print. So clicking on print allows me to see, I'm going to print 2 pages. That's not what I want. I originally thought it was going to be portrait, so I feel that it will fit nicely on a page on portrait. Yes, it will. Check this out. Under my formatting, I don't want to show these grid lines because all the grid lines that are outside of the data table really are useless. So I think it's more nice design not showing the grid lines. And let's show you something just in case you have a bad layout and you have a problem like this. Oh no, it's just printing my graph on a separate page. Oh no. So there's several ways to fix this. You can set custom page breaks like this. Click on the page break and look at this dotted line. This dotted line shows the page break, and just drag it to now all fit on the same page. Confirm the breaks, and boom, now they all fit nicely on the same page. Another way you can do it is that, let's see if I can go backwards and change that. So let's get our custom page breaks off, and now again we're back at the same spot. Oh no, what should I do? I can fit to width, but I could also fit to full page, and now they all fit nicely on the page. Look at that. Now I can do it portrait as well. Portrait fits nicely on the page as well. So once everything fits nicely on the page, you can press next, save it as a PDF, or print it however you want to submit it. But submitting on Google Classroom would be good. So please submit on Google Classroom and press save. And yes, this is what you are going to call it. Let's call it first name underscore last name underscore Pendulum data. Boom. Save this, submit it on Google Classroom, and then get an A. So, congratulations on making your graph, and remember, science is everywhere.